Thanks everybody again for coming, and thank you to Caitlin for her keynote. I think she really epitomized what this event is trying to accomplish, is knowing that there's life outside the box from careers you may have already been familiar with. I think it's important to note that some people don't realize fashion is not just playing with clothes and shopping, that it's actually a multi-billion-dollar industry that is extremely important around the world. It has a global reach. Brands are both domestic and global, but that's really, I think, something that's important to realize. And you can do accounting and work for Chanel. You can do so many things. One question that I was asked, just to kind of recap some of my gathering information of what we want to cover. I have questions for our illustrious panelists for the second panel, which I'm excited for you to hear about. But one question someone had was, how do you get an internship, or how do you get the foot in the door? Because it might be an intimidating industry. It might seem like it's really high up and hard to get to. You may or may not have personal connections to things. But I just wanted to let you know that I've been around the world, worked for some of the top brands, and I had no connections. My parents are public school teachers from New Jersey, and I was really lucky to do all the things that I've done and have such a wonderful background of a family. But they could get me a job in education. And I knew I wanted something creative, so I really had one contact when I got out of school, and I shot a fashion campaign and went to New York knowing one person with a backpack. And I want you to all feel that you could maximize whatever your potential is as well, whether you do have a contact or not. Like we were saying before, most of us have had jobs since we had working papers. But there's always a way to do things that you dream of. So never feel that something's out of your reach. You may have to work a little bit and take some steps to get there, but it's all really possible. So I want you to believe in yourselves. So let's see, we have an interesting group here from brands between Lilly Pulitzer and PVH, Phillips Van Heusen, and we're excited for our next group of panelists. I think I'm going to let you come off of what I just said. Is how did you get your first internship or your foot in the door? How is that possible? Did you have just someone that, was a neighbor, or did you try to barrel down the door and get in touch with CEOs like we've heard? You can do anything, and I've definitely done the reach high to get your foot in the door way, and it's gotten me pretty far just for being a business student here. So. Yeah.
Hi guys. So I did know someone that knew someone at Free People, and they were nice enough to sit down with me. But I feel like Urban Outfitters is really a company that likes to hire within, so I really needed to sell myself as a candidate, as an intern. I didn't have any experience working at any of our stores. But I was just telling someone before, I used my experience as a Panhellenic delegate to explain that I could take the needs and wants of one group and explain it to another group, and had something executed. And I also knew how to work with other teams and team members to achieve one common goal. And that's what operations is. And I really think that using that one little thing that I did here at Villanova was what got my foot in the door there. And I was fortunate enough that they liked me, and I was a hard worker, and I've been around for 5 years. But that was really, I think, what got my foot in the door.
Great.
Hi guys, thanks again for coming. Such a great time networking with all of you and kind of learning about everyone's different interests. I know this would have been something I would have been interested in when I was here at Villanova as well. But similar to Caitlin, we both did the Summer Residence Institute together. And my position that I first started in was customer service at Lilly Pulitzer. That job basically was referred to me from a networking position that I had with Church Bordeaux in the business school. So I think that was kind of my foot in the door. I took the position not wanting to do customer service, but knowing that I could diversify myself and work with a lot of different departments, because that's kind of what customer service does. I worked with all the stores and eventually got the role to promote myself from there. But I think, again, it is just about networking, knowing as many people as you can while you're here at Villanova, and just building those relationships. Even now, I might not be the best person at my job or the best person at what I'm doing currently, but having that relationship with someone is what's going to set you apart from someone who necessarily doesn't have that personal relationship. Speaking personally, again, I would feel more comfortable hiring someone that I have a relationship with versus not hiring someone who I haven't met in the past.
So It's funny, my 2 internships were both working for banks, and it's not at all what I do. So I think I'm gonna kind of rephrase it as, I think it has to be about your passion and your drive. After trading equities for 2 years on Wall Street, I tried to get a job in the fashion industry, and my resume was oftentimes thrown out because my skill set didn't seem applicable. Meanwhile, I was doing something that involved high intensity, a very analytical skill set, and just work ethic and drive. And it took a long time to actually like bounce my resume around until someone actually invited me in to have a conversation. But I think it's just persistence and perseverance. And then in addition to that, it's also understanding what you are good at and how you can sell yourself. So sure, like I can say that, yes, I hadn't worked with product at the time, but like I knew numbers and I could do math in my sleep, and I loved product. And how could I make my resume even show that I'm creative? I hadn't worked in the fashion industry, but on the side I did a lot of amateur photography. So I threw my photography website on my resume, and someone, when they saw it, they were like, oh look, he is creative. He has a creative eye. He understands something more so than just numbers at a bank. So it's trying to round yourself out to what you are good at and what makes you saleable, and then just keep pursuing what you want and be persistent.
For me, again, it's just the networking. I used my Villanova network. I used anyone that I could, and I sat down and I said, "Hey, can we get coffee? I want to like learn what you're doing," and just kind of leveraging that. That enabled me to get my foot in the door and get my resume on that desk, just by building those connections. So I think that as much as you can do that, that's what I recommend.
Great. Let's see. Well, a question for Andrew. He's at Lilly Pulitzer, right? Okay, so I noticed you're a business minor. We have friends in the audience who are both business majors, minors, communications, English, all across the board. You have a pretty serious job as a producer, which is more business oriented right now, even though it is creative as well. Do you feel that that business minor helped you, or did you learn more on the job?
Yeah, I think for me, for my personal role, if you're not familiar what a producer is, but basically what I do is I book hair, makeup, and models for all our photo shoots. Again, coordinating the product, there is a lot more analytics that go behind it, whether we're putting X stress on the cover versus how many units we have stock behind it, working very closely with our merchandising team. I think the business minor, it's always been something that's come up when I have had any type of interview. It sets me apart of why did I want to do that? Why did I want that business sort of minor on my resume? And I think being a double major with Spanish and communications, Spanish was something that I was passionate in. And that was kind of something I wanted to do. Communications, I always knew that I wanted to go into something where I was dealing with a lot of people. But I think my role now personally is very organizational. So whether or not you are a finance major and then you go into fashion, or you're an accountant and you end up going and you're selling clothes in a retail store, I think your position essentially, what I've learned is that, trying to put it in the best words for you, what I've learned is that, sorry.
Yeah, well, would you recommend to our friends who are less business majors, more liberal arts, that they try to acquire a business minor? Is that useful to you?
Sure, I would absolutely recommend it. I think too, just diversifying yourself and the amount of things that you want to do. Again, like, what I've learned is that the more you can kind of get your hands on. Caitlin and I were talking earlier. She said she's very diversified. She might not be very, very good at one thing, but she's pretty good at a lot of things. So I think diversifying yourself and kind of having those skills in a lot of different things will lead you into sort of a position where you can grow and sort of foster those things and maybe even find the things that you are good at in the long run. Yeah.
It makes you adaptable. So it also gives a manager or a supervisor, they can look at you and say, okay, she can do this and she can also do that. So maybe this new position's coming up, we should consider her. And you never know where you're gonna end up. The whole point of today is to expose you to the fashion industry, but also the fact that you can change careers or have a skill set that can apply to an industry you never even knew much about. So I think that's a great.
And just to speak to that too, I clearly using not as much of my major into what I do now, but finding things. I was director of student life while I was here at Villanova, so finding things that you do like doing, and being director of student life, I had to plan homecoming, so very organizational. What I do now is extremely organizational, so just making sure that in the long run, I might not have known that being director of student life would be so organizational, and that was something that I gravitated towards, but then kind of realizing now that that was why I did what I did, and then fostering that skill to doing what I do today.
I minored in Spanish, so I respect that you did that. Did you study abroad at all?
Yes.
How did you find that applicable to the real world outside of student life?
Yeah, so I studied abroad actually twice after my freshman year. I did kind of more of a service learning in Costa Rica, where I taught the local police English and took 2 classes. And then my junior year, second semester, I went abroad and I interned with Zara while I was abroad in Madrid. So they're based out there. So I did get a lot of experience in a corporate office where I could apply my Spanish, obviously becoming very fluent in a situation like that. But today, a lot of our client base with Lily is based in Florida, Miami being kind of a very Spanish-speaking location. So I have been able to put a lot of that to use, especially when I was in customer service. Our factories in Peru, whether they be other locations in Latin America where we're sourcing a lot of cotton from, it's definitely extremely applicable in being able to use it in lots of different spaces within the business.
Yeah, foreign language skills are great, especially global exposure helps you because when you're off of campus, Villanova is a great place, but there's a lot more, especially some place like a New York or Paris or Miami. You're exposed to people from all around the world. If you work at any of these companies like a Ralph Lauren or something more international, you will meet people from around the world who are either living in New York, working, pursuing their fashion careers, but the more you can understand about people being different, it really helps you apply your personal EQ skills to any situation. If we could talk to Patrick next, would that be okay?
Sure.
All right, so my question for you is, what you're doing now in fashion is very different from an different industry from working on Wall Street. So how did you make the change? Was it just, you talked a little bit about it before, but is there something you could add more? Did you always think that it was going to be something for you to more a creative field?
Yeah, so I was speaking to a couple people earlier in the networking session, and I said, you know, what intrigued me to take my first job at Credit Suisse was that I thought it was sexy to work for a bank in New York and make a lot of money when I was 21 years old. And I was completely focused on that and not on what would make me happy and truly what my passions were. And so I took a lot of time. It's like you have to look inside and just be really honest with yourself in terms of like, what do you want to get out of life? And I put in my little quote here, like this long drawn out quote about how grab whatever it is that you're passionate about with both arms, embrace it, hold on to it, and like continue to pursue that passion. So a couple people said earlier, it's like not just all about playing with clothes, but like I loved playing with clothes. I loved fashion, men's fashion, women's fashion, accessories, shoes. My shoe collection is insane. So it's like these are things that I genuinely loved, but like I was working at a bank and I was like, the business of fashion is huge. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like there's got to be a way to get involved. And there's got to be able to way that I can use both the analytical side of my brain, which is like the right or the left side, I forget, and then the other side, which is the creative side, which is the side that like certain people just have that skill where they can look at a product and understand what it is and understand how colors come together and understand what the customer will like and what they'll perceive. And some people just don't have that. And if you do, and you can combine that with that analytical side, you come together and you find a nice place where they meet, and then you become an asset. So I was like, how can I sell myself? Like I said earlier, it's like make sure you hone in on the skills that you're good at, and then be very clear that you're truly passionate about what you want to do and what you want to pursue. And the role that I'm in now is the most creative role that I've been in throughout my career. It really is. It's about product and it's about that product strategy. And I knew that getting into the fashion industry, sales was a really nice place to start. Sales. It's like, you know, I started at PVH and we joke it's a bank that sells shirts. Literally there's math behind every single shirt on that shelf. So I knew that that could be my way in. I get that part, let me come in here and show you that I also get the other part. that I get the fashion part. And that's kind of how I sold myself. And then working in sales for a while before leaving really the sales part of the business and moving into merchandising, which having that component of understanding the business really well before moving into product strategy. And now I'm at that place where I'm like, it's kind of like that's the goal where I was going towards, and now it's just where do we go from here? But like having those stepping stones along the way and using your skill set to like get you to each next landmark.
Thank you, Patrick. That answered a lot of questions, and that it covered a lot of territory that I think are key elements to the career track, and how do you get to be from here to there. You know, the stepping stones, the follow your passion, that's super important. I studied business marketing in Villanova School of Business, and I plowed my way through it, but I'm an artist at heart, but I knew it was something practical to use, and I've been able to apply that to a lot of things. But, you know, following strategically your passion really is a great way to go, so thank you for touching on this. Emily, you're up. My question for you, you were a finance and marketing major, right? And you're doing a little bit more creative now?
Yeah, so I actually, yes, I was a finance and marketing major at school. I picked that because coming into, Villanova, my family's all in business, so I figured, that's what I need to do. I was taught that's what I need to do, and I need to go into business. So I got into the business school, and finance was what I wanted to do. And I declared that right away, and then started taking some classes. I know freshman and sophomore year, you're kind of exposed to all areas of the business. And I really enjoyed marketing also. I felt like I am inherently really good at numbers and analytics. Not something that I'm just naturally really good at, but then I really enjoyed the marketing side also. That was something that I was passionate about. So I was like, I'm gonna add this and be a dual major. My dad was like, no, be finance and accounting. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So I picked finance and marketing, and I think that was a great decision for me. It really melded the business and the creative. And it's been a way that I can leverage my resume when in getting a job. So I work in merchandising, just like Patrick was speaking about, and that's really why I'm in this role, because I loved the business side of things, and I wanted to be involved in creative also. So it was a good medium for me, and I'm able to use those analytical skills and analyze selling on a daily basis and figuring out how to negotiate the cost to hit our target margins. But then also sit in on design meetings with Ralph himself. And figure out, take street style images and, be like, who is our polo girl and who do we want her to be, and, pick the designs for the next season. So it's really a great position for me, and I enjoy coming to work every day. I'm protecting the business, but also protecting Ralph's vision. And I feel like I've been able to use my skills in my major of finance and marketing to leverage that and use that in my day-to-day.
Oh, thank you, that was great. We covered a lot of what I was asking at our intermission. What did people want to know about or hear about? So I think we've covered a bunch now. I think one great way to kind of wrap it up, we have about 15 more minutes, if we could get some more questions to see if there's anything that we've missed. What are you thinking of? What would you like to know? So we do have more magazines.
Hi, my name's Kelly. I'm a senior marketing major. I was just wondering, for us seniors who are looking into full-time positions, what's the best advice you can give for the entry-level jobs that we'll be getting next year?
So I think Erica asked me the same question earlier when we were speaking, and it's willingness to do anything, open-mindedness, eagerness, and passion. Understanding that, like, if you're coming into work, say if you were coming into work for someone at IZOD, one day you might be putting together important financial spreadsheets, but the next day you might actually have to help clean up those samples on the ground in the showroom because the showroom's a total mess. And so being very nimble and adaptable is really important, and the willingness to work hard. And I think that A+ attitude of like, I'm willing to take on anything, and I understand that I don't know everything now, because you actually in school been trained really well how to learn, but you haven't necessarily learned the skills that you'll have on the job, and you'll learn those there, and the businesses understand that. And then also just making sure, I've said it like way too many times, but making sure you resonate that passion that you truly have it and believe in it, and believe in yourself. And I think that's it.
Absolutely. I think the no job is too small is a great attitude to have, to be humble starting out. My quote, we all said something, we were asked to say a few words about something that we wish we knew. And I think I wish I had been more open to learn, more willing to do any small job in the beginning. I came out right out of school and shot a fashion campaign, so that was an alternative route that's not common, but I think any intern I've had that had the right attitude, any entry-level person who wants to help make my life easier to do what I need to do, because everybody's doing their own job. If you could all answer, if you have more words, that would be great, because I think it's a terrific question.
I think that just having a positive attitude also is really important, and being enthusiastic. You know, to piggyback on what they were saying, if you have a company in mind that is your goal, I think taking any job to get into that company is also something that you can do, because it's always easier to get your dream job in the company once you're internal. So if it means, you know, taking a job that you don't necessarily want, to kind of just get you in to be able to get your goal job, I think that that's also good.
Just to, I guess, piggyback off what Emily said, I think right out of school, you might not have your dream job right away. I don't think anyone gets their dream job right out of school. Did I necessarily want to be answering phones and listening to people complain all day about their dresses? No, probably not. But I think that was my foot in the door. I think my background was in social media long term. So seeing opportunity with that first position towards what Patrick was saying, whatever your passion is. So then moving from there. So what I did, I guess, just to give an example, was I saw that within customer service, there was opportunity to do customer service for social media. Wasn't a role that we had, but I could take that on. It brought me closer to my passion to then eventually be running all our social media, and again, it's my role for what I do now.
Would you say that was being an entrepreneur? Kind of creating opportunity?
Yeah, I think so, and I think in a company like Lilly Pulitzer, that I know Villanova it's pretty well known, but we are a smaller company, so having kind of an entrepreneurial spirit, it comes from our roots, but I think just, again, going after your passion, being entrepreneurial, finding those ways, whether you're in a situation where it might not be your ideal job, but putting a twist on it so that you can sort of show what your passion is or what you might necessarily have that skill set for, so that you can really shine in that area.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. I know working for a smaller company, I was given more opportunity to take on diverse roles. I was hired by one company to be the house model, and fast forward 6 months, they realized I could do more, so I did a whole lot of things, including meeting with editors from Vogue and Harper's Bazaar to show the new collection, because they realized I had that potential and there was a need for more hands on deck. Larger companies might not have as diverse exposure, but there is room to be nimble and to reach out, which I think is great points everyone's made.
Yeah, I'd piggyback of what everybody else said, but I had no idea what operations was when I applied for Free People. I just knew I wanted to work there, and I knew it was an opportunity, and I sold myself for that position even though I had no idea what it did. I looked at the job description, I looked at what my skill set was, and I mirrored that to what I could speak to in the interview, and that's kind of what sold the job. And how I am where I am today is I kind of looked, kind of like Andrew, within the company, saw where there were opportunities, saw where there were areas of improvements, maybe some weaknesses within the team, and would jump into projects. I noticed that nobody was really communicating IT rollouts for like point of sale very well. Did I think I was going to be communicating how a pin pad works in a store? No. I also work on like omni-channel initiatives. Also something I didn't know that I was going to be working with the direct operations team and retail team as well. But I saw an opportunity. I knew that I could help in some way. I knew that my skill set was applicable, and I asked to go to meetings. I asked if I could be included. I asked questions. I think that there's no dumb question. Always ask the why. It helps you to really balance out to understand what your role is in the bigger picture. Even if you're just an intern, understanding how you fit into that global thinking, I think is really important.
Great, I think we have some more time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions from the audience, if everyone has any idea that they would like covered. Oh, great, thank you.
Hello, my question is, I guess with the fashion industry is going more to social media, to show that we are versed with social media, should we have an online presence?
Good question. Anyone want to take that?
You can take it since I work.
You better be hashtagging us too.
Yeah, I think definitely having an online presence, if you are interested in social media, is huge. I think social media being something that's constantly changing, the fashion industry being something that's constantly changing, it's definitely an interesting industry, and showing that you are a part of that, part of the community, part of that over sort of arching industry is important. It spreads across so many different things now. It's all really about, with e-commerce, driving traffic to the brand's website so people eventually transact. So as pretty as all the pictures kind of look, there is business sides to it, but there is that creative element of writing all the copy and kind of being that forefront, being the first to the market to do certain things. So I think with social media, definitely having a presence, if you are into photography, putting some of your photography up, but just kind of highlighting what you're good at within your social media profiles. Especially, I think for me, we do look at candidates' profiles before, just to get a little bit of background behind them, maybe see if there's something that we're not currently doing that they have innovation with. We always love to know what the new and most upcoming thing was. At Lily, we are actually the first fashion brand, not to brag a little bit, but to have geo filters in all our corporate stores. So just whether you have an innovation like that, idea kind of came from an intern. So yeah, I think just having knowledge in the industry, but again, it is very diverse. So even if you don't have necessarily the strongest social media presence, if you know a lot about, I guess, social media advertising or something else in that sector, if it is e-commerce, kind of using that and pulling it in to social media is an asset to any company.
I was speaking to a few of you guys about this. Retail is very challenging right now, the brick and mortar, and it's a very online environment. And I think you guys are the future. I mean, even since I've been with Free People for 5 years, everything has changed. I mean, the way we communicate has changed. The way we're talking to even our stylists in our stores is through an app on a mobile device. I think you guys all have powerful ideas, and it's helpful to bring those to an interview. I just interviewed interns 2 months ago, and though we didn't have an opportunity to hire those people, they had amazing ideas, and it's just helpful for you guys to bring that to the forefront. And if there's no bad idea, you might have something that nobody's ever thought of before.
I also think that even if you don't want to post pictures or I'm thinking of Instagram in particular, but I think just having that to be able to follow your brands. I mean, every designer has an Instagram and is always, that's their go-to for their newest collection or what they're standing for or what they want to share with the world. So I think that even if you don't post, I think it's good to, have one and just follow and see what everyone's doing. It's really important to, be relevant and, stay, I read WWD daily, right when I get into the office, that's what I read. So I feel like just to know what's going on in the fashion industry is also really important. So I think just having one to follow and, see what's out there is really important.
One thing, I think, what is the Women's Wear Daily is WWD.
Sorry.
I think that might not translate yet. But it's something you should all know. I see the Wall Street Journals here on the pile in Bartley, which is really great. But Women's Wear Daily is like the Wall Street Journal of fashion, and maybe you had something else to say?
Yeah, no, it's Women's Wear Daily. Sorry that I didn't let you guys know, but I think that that's something that my manager, when I first started, she implemented and said, read this daily and come to me with, some interesting article that you read or something that you want to share. And that is something that I've really loved doing, and this is what I look forward to doing in the morning. And you should subscribe and just stay up to date.
And it's not just women's wear. It's not. Literally, that's what it's called because it's an old periodical. But like, if you look in there, there'll be an article about Sears closing stores because they're a huge apparel business. It's like it is the Wall Street Journal of the apparel. I mean, even broader. I mean, it's fashion and apparel, but it even goes into the retail space. So it's an awesome periodical to be reading.
Absolutely. Maybe another question?
Hi, my name is Caroline. I'm a freshman at the Liberal Arts School. I was just wondering what a day in your life looks like. Like, what do you do? Like, the time you get up and then, clock out of work.
Oh, that's a great question. Who would like to start?
Okay, so for me, my day-to-day life is definitely different in terms of work. We call them fire drills, as we say, that randomly we'll get something that we need to give to a senior executive, or a photo shoot's gonna happen and we need to pull all of the samples. So it's really hard to say what I do day to day. When I wake up, I work out. That's one thing that I definitely do every day. But then I think just, you check your emails, you look at the calendar for what meetings you have for the day, make sure you're prepared for all of them. I'm constantly in meetings. My job is really interactive. So we can't work from home for what I do, just because it's all about collaborating with different teams. So I'm constantly in meetings. I love my job because I'm never at my desk, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because I feel like when I get to my desk at 5 o'clock, then I have like 2 hours of emails that I have to get through. But that's what I really like. So my day-to-day is definitely different. But some days I'm in design meetings all day. Some days I am on a photo shoot, or some days I'm in the showroom. So it's really different. And that's what I like about my job.
Anyone else? You all have the opportunity. I think this is a really great question, and it can be a simple or a long answer, however you see fit.
I mean, there's no typical day. It's like, people were talking about Devil Wears Prada earlier, and they're like, it's not really like that. I was like, well, I mean, it kind of can be like that. It's like, it's demanding. So your day can be back and forth for meetings. Like, a market is a really big, important part of the retail fashion industry, and what that means is, like, you have 4 main markets a year. You have spring, summer, fall, and holiday. Or if you're working in like couture, like my past life, you have like pre-fall, fall, and fall would be runway, and then you'd have pre-spring and spring, which would be runway. And so it's like getting ready for that period of time when you're gonna do all of your selling. So like I work on the wholesale facing business. It's like the amount of like work that goes into that in preparation. So it's like lately, we start our pre-spring market next Monday. So it's like working on floor sets for all of our department store accounts, and like what they're gonna look like and what products is gonna be on which shelf in which store. Working with the sales teams on rolling up their demand files to make sure that we have the right capacity for our manufacturers overseas. Sitting in a meeting with our group president so he can ask about what the assortments look like, what the product looks like. Going to a photo shoot meeting for our our fall 2017 campaign of the product that we sold in December. Trying to keep up with the emails that stack up to like literally 200 unread a day. But it's like, and every day changes. So, and there are fire drills everywhere, but I think what's exciting about it is that there's always newness and it's always changing. There is a constant, obviously, like I said, the 4 markets a year kind of keep it constant, so your life cycle is always kind of like towards those next markets of when the next big product showcase is, and it's like working in these short life cycles to get to each one of them.
Yeah, it's just as similar to everyone else, just to reiterate, no day is the same, essentially. A lot of my days I travel a lot as well. So similar to Emily, when I do get back to my desk, sometimes it is 5 p.m. and there's a stack of clothes that I'm supposed to figure out how to shoot and what they are and what season they fall into. Today, just to give an example, when I am on photo shoots in the morning, it's mostly kind of working with the stylist and working with our merchandising team to make sure that we know how the clothes are supposed to fit on the model. A lot of pre-work goes into that as well. But for new additions to the line, knowing how they kind of are supposed to be styled, styling all the clothes for the website, using a shot list to know which clothes need to be shot, with which accessories, with sort of which model we want to shoot them on, and don't shoot this on this model and shoot this on this model. So it is a lot of direction that you're giving. You're dealing with a lot of different people. You're giving direction to hair and makeup. You're telling them sort of our aesthetic, explaining what kind of hair we need for this model, what kind of makeup we need, all being a little bit different. And then working with the photographers, working with the models to make sure that we're getting the right selects for each shot based on what the needs are for the website. And then kind of working with the art director, I guess, eventually to making sure that those selects then translate to what you're going to see in an email, to what you're going to see, I guess, consumer facing from there. And then obviously I travel a lot for campaigns, which are larger productions on location, mostly in sunny destinations. So that's that conversation for another day, but very different as well.
Yep, same here. No set day. Every day is different. I wear many hats in my role. I know a decent amount about a lot of things. My team's very small, so I have to know basically how the store operates and how everything's getting to the store and everything behind the scenes. So my days usually consist of 32-hour long meetings all day long when I finally sit back at my desk at 5 to kind of consolidate all the information. So I can jump from a meeting regarding how we're updating the office PCs in the stores to what shipment's getting to the store when, to we need this this merchandising concept to get into the store by this time. How are we making that happen? We have a new store opening in 2 weeks. Oh, we have 2 stores relocating the same day. Things like that. And it's just really being able to jump from subject to subject and just quickly change the way that I'm thinking. And then taking all of that and be able to digest that at a store level and really understanding top level down. This is what's coming from the directors, this was coming from senior levels. How is a store who's supposed to be selling on the floor for 12 hours a day going to digest and understand this information? And that's really like the end all goal for me each day.
Thank you. I think we have to wrap it up about now because most of our alumni have come from New York or elsewhere to be with us. So if we could give them a round of applause.